Hello and welcome. I'm Amanda Tennant, a naturopath and a physical therapist, and I specialize in Pilates for both fitness and for rehabilitation. So today we are talking all about how Pilates can be super instrumental in preventing or staving off, minimizing, or maybe even eradicating headaches. Headaches are incredibly common, and probably everybody watching this video has at some point in time suffered from a headache. And we know that they can range from being mild and annoying, more like a nuisance, to being truly incapacitating, sometimes for days. Some of the more common causes of headaches include hormonal changes. We get tension headaches from poor posture, repetitive movements, faulty biomechanics, sleeping funny. Migraine sufferers oftentimes also have symptoms of dizziness and vertigo and nausea and heightened sensitivity to sound and lights. All of these types of headaches can be helped with Pilates, along with all the other kinds of headaches that exist out there, and there are more than 150 different kinds. So today we're going to chat a little bit about how Pilates in general can help with headaches, and then I am going to grab my handsome model, my husband, and I'm going to show you a few hands-on tricks and tips that I have gathered over the years to really help my headache sufferers. And today we will be working on the Half Cadillac with the roll-down bar. However, if you don't have access to that equipment, it's okay. You can still help your clients or help yourself if you're someone who has frequent headaches or just needs to feel better, okay? So in general, just regular old Pilates helps with headaches for a few reasons. Number one, Pilates is a really grounding and centering exercise method. It helps us to calm down. It helps us to relax. It is a mindful practice. And so particularly when we have tension headaches, but even if our headache is not caused by tension, when we don't feel good, we tense up. We curl, we change our posture, we don't feel well, and that creates more guarding and muscle spasms and trigger points and all of these muscles that then contribute to making the headache worse. It's just kind of a negative cycle. So by getting grounded and centered and relaxing, just chill out a little bit, that can help alleviate any type of headache, just softening some of the tension. So that is one of the ways that Pilates in general can help alleviate a headache or prevent it. People that suffer from frequent headaches, they know when one is coming. So my clients that suffer from headaches or migraine sufferers, when they come into the studio, they can tell me, I've got a headache coming on. We need to do a headache class, okay? So another way that Pilates helps is with breathing. Joseph Pilates was really big on breathing, and that's a central tenet of Pilates. So when we are getting those nice deep breaths, breathing is detoxifying when we do it the right way. So when we're getting the oxygen in and we're getting the carbon dioxide and the toxins out, that is healing for our body. Additionally, when we start drawing in and working on that diaphragmatic breathing, then we can start to kickstart the parasympathetic nervous system. And again, we can just calm everything down. So when we have headaches and we don't feel well, we tighten up, we tense up, we feel that stress, we hold it in our tissues. So when we can stop, relax, and start taking deep breaths, and then kickstart that parasympathetic nervous system, we just start to cool everything down a little bit. That helps everybody. And that should be part of any type of Pilates practice. And then the last way that Pilates in general can help with headaches is that Pilates, when done right, should always be focused on good alignment, good movement patterns, stacking the body up, creating space between the joints, eliminating unnecessary stress on the tissues surrounding the joints all over the body. So when we are working on good alignment and good posture, we can start to take strain off of those probably already strained areas, and that in itself can really help release headaches. So it's okay if you don't have equipment, if you don't have a Pilates studio, can't get into a Pilates studio, just working on some of the deep breathing and the centering, some of the stretching and alignment aspects of Pilates can really help you to feel better. So I'm gonna show you some things that are really hands-on. So I'm a very hands-on practitioner. My training is as a physical therapist, and so that's within my wheelhouse, and it's very comfortable for me. And I do think there's something incredibly therapeutic, just touch alone, okay? Right now, I am filming this during a pandemic. So not everybody wants to be touched right now. Or perhaps you're an instructor and you don't want to be touching your clients. That's okay. I'm still gonna show you a couple of things that are really helpful, that are hands off. But then I am gonna get in and show you some things that are a bit more manual, some stretching and some traction, a little bit of massage, some techniques that I like to use. So that's within my training. If it's not within your training, if it's outside your zone of comfort or your clients or your knowledge base, then you want to approach this very carefully. You don't want to do anything that you're not trained and able to do. The neck is really fragile in a sense, and it has a lot of important structures going through it. So I never want to force or strain or work aggressively with the neck. And if you were to do that and do something that might not be appropriate, your client could actually stroke out in front of you. And obviously we don't want that. That would be terrible. So please take all of this with a grain of salt. If it's within your wheelhouse, then feel free to play with it a little bit and experiment. And if it's not, then take away the tips that feel comfortable and right for you and your client. So I do have a few other exercises on the equipment that I like to use for my headache sufferers that I'm not going to show in this video. I will have links in the description box below for the ones that I have videos for. So a couple of those things include the side rolling series on the Half Cadillac, or just with the roll down bar. It doesn't have to be on a Half Cadillac. And I do have a video for that, so I will link that for you. But I also really love anything on a foam roller. So again, when we can get that alignment and let somebody get really heavy into the foam roller with their back, that can be very, very helpful for them. So I do like to spring the push-through bar from above and have somebody on preferably a half roller if they're not feeling very well. You don't want them to have to worry too much about their balance, so they're nice and stable. And then working on scapular protraction and retraction, like a little ceiling punch, as well as arms overhead and working on elevation and depression through those shoulder blades while staying nice and hugged around the roller. Can release a lot of tension, help with alignment, and that's really helpful. This seems counterintuitive, but I love to do the beginning footwork series on full resistance on the reformer. And so it's a lot of weight for the legs. They need to be able to do that and have healthy lower limbs, but we aren't using it for that purpose. We're using it so the shoulder blocks can press the shoulders down and start to release the neck and stretch. And you can do that and even have the head to one side or the other. So that is really helpful. And then again, you can use the half roller on the reformer. You may not be able to do full resistance with that setup, but I do have a video on that, so I will link that as well. Okay, I'm gonna go grab my husband, my handsome model, and I will tell you this, even though we have a fully equipped Pilates studio in our home, he's not a Pilates guy. He's gonna be doing things he's never done before. He does not work out in the studio. He has done a little bit of rolling, and I've worked on him a bit for neck and shoulder pain, but it's probably been years. So he's gonna come in kind of as he's gonna come in as an inexperienced client, which, that might be more realistic for what might be coming into your studio. So hopefully he's a good model, and we'll just adjust him as we need to, just as you would with your client. And again, I'll show you some hands-off tricks, and then I'll show you some manual therapy tricks as well. All right. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so I have my lovely, handsome model, my husband, Andy, with me. As I mentioned before, Andy's not a Pilates exerciser, so some of this he's done before, a lot of it he has not. It's gonna be new for him, so he'll learn as you're learning with me. All of the exercises are gonna be done using the roll down bar. We are on my Half Cadillac here. You can certainly do this on a Half Cadillac, you can do it on a full Cadillac, if you have a wall tower or a Pilates stick. I even have one client, she is staying safe at home, doing her workouts at home during the pandemic, And she and her engineer husband have attached hooks into the studs of their bedroom wall, and she went ahead and ordered Pilates springs from one of the Pilates companies and a roll down bar. She is a headache sufferer, and I know she does a lot of these exercises at home, and it's been really helpful for her. So that's a very accessible and inexpensive solution to do a setup at home. Okay, so we are gonna start in what I call the traditional roll down position. And that means that Andy's gonna be sitting with his legs out long and his feet propped up in parallel along these metal uprights. I'm gonna have him reach for his roll down bar with the palms facing down and nice and wide. I want a nice wide grip. So if you can, you can probably see this in the camera. My husband has a lot of fitness strengths and gifts, but flexibility is a little bit of a challenge for him. And so in order for his legs to be straight, you can see the curve of his spine here. Now, we never want to compromise that length and height and extension of the spine, especially if we're working on somebody who has a headache and tension. We want to get them as aligned and lengthened as possible to help release tension and undo stress. So what you can do is have your client just simply bend their knees if they have tightness through their hamstrings. And we're just going to let the legs relax a little bit, okay? And he is straighter here. He's still not completely straight. And when you're not feeling well, this can be a hard position to hold. Even though the legs are bent, it's still an active position for them. So what we're going to do is grab a foam roller, and you can use a bolster or roll up a towel, blankets, whatever you've got. I've got a foam roller, so we're going to support his legs. And although this is better and he's probably a bit more supported and comfortable, he still has some curvature here that we don't want. We want him up as tall as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and just take one of these yoga blankets, just these woven blankets, and put it right on top of the roller. And then we're going to get a little bit more height underneath his knees because we want his legs to just soften and relax and be supported. And then he's going to stack up as tall as he can. Yeah, so that's better, okay? It's okay if we don't have perfection. We want to get it as good as we can, and it will improve as we go through this series. So I mentioned that I would show you a couple of tips and tricks that your client can do independently, or you, if you don't have somebody who's working on you, you can do this yourself. So if you're not comfortable doing hands-on work with your client, or they're not comfortable being touched, you can still help them with their headache situation using the roll down bar. So I'm going to have Andy take an inhale and start to round his spine and roll down to the mat or to the table. He's going to come down bone by bone, and then once he's down, he's just going to relax here. So again, hopefully you can see right here, the first thing that I would cue Andy is to start to tuck his chin down and in. And actually, he's pretty flat here. If you've got somebody who still has their chin sticking up in the air, you can take a small cushion and just slide it underneath their head. And that's better. Actually, that is really beautiful alignment here. You can see that his forehead and his chin are pretty level. They're like parallel with the mat. And that's going to give us nice length through the back of the neck. That is incredibly important for stacking up those bones exactly how we want them and letting those tissues release a little bit. So while Andy is here, the most important thing that he can do is to let the bar pull his arms as much as possible. So as he releases them, there, you can see they're starting to let go a bit more there. I want him to just surrender his arms into the bar and the springs, as if the springs were like 1,000 pounds pulling his arm bones out of his shoulder sockets. As dramatic as that sounds, it is so healing and helpful for the body. When he can give his arm weight and relax and let go and give his arm weight to the bar and the springs, we start to get this lovely distraction force releasing through the neck if there's tightness, and then literally and physically creating more space in the shoulder joints and the elbow joints and the wrist. So that is incredibly nourishing for the body. And it just allows everything to start to soften a little bit, which of course we want when we're trying to release tension from a headache. So from here, I'm going to have Andy come back up to a seated position, but I want him to do his work from his belly. Even if he's not feeling fantastic, we want the work to come from the core. We want to use the powerhouse. We do not want to rely on the upper body. So in order to get him to hopefully use just his core, I'm going to cue him that he'll keep his arms long and straight, And he's going to keep his shoulders down away from his ears. So when somebody has a weaker core, or they're struggling, or they're just coming up in an inefficient, inappropriate way, you're going to see them start to bend their elbows and try to use their biceps to muscle their way up with their arms. We don't want that. So I'm going to have Andy, when he's ready, breathe in and lift his head to look towards the bar. And then using his belly, he's going to take his exhale and continue coming up until the weight's even on his sit bones and he's stacking up nice and tall. And he did a really, really nice job of keeping his shoulders down and really kind of containing and controlling the upper body here. So again, you can see that Andy is pretty straight here. He's not 100%, but it's pretty good. You could work with your pillow a little bit, do some more stretching, some exercises, but I'm going to show you another variation. So we're going to get rid of this. And I'm going to have Andy roll down the exact same way. So he's going to inhale and scoop, and then he's going to roll bone by bone, coming all the way down. And then his job is to draw that chin in to lengthen the back of the neck and release the arms. So from here, I'm going to ask Andy to turn his head to one side, and he can choose which side he wants to go to first. And then Andy is always welcome to readjust his head if he needs to. But what we're looking for as he turns his head to the right is a deepening of a stretch down the left side. So again, it may come all the way up from the skull or the ear, down the neck, across the top of the shoulder, or down that left arm. And then, just like before, we want that arm to get as long as possible and really let the bar pull it. So we can just start to release that whole chain here and soften. So the more intense the stretch is, the more gently and slowly you want to come out of it so that you don't shock the body. Okay, so when he's ready, he'll bring his head back through center, and then he's going to turn the head the other way. And it's important that they know they can always readjust if they need to go further or if they've gone too far, just to make it a comfortable stretch. So we want our client to hang out here about 30 seconds, okay? And we want them just to really relax and breathe and find a nice stretch. Some people, if they've got a lot of tightness, will start to experience some neural symptoms. They'll have some numbness or tingling or like pins and needles, okay? I'm okay with that to a certain extent. If they're just getting a little bit of that, it can be a good thing. It can be some tightness that they need to release, and they're going to feel better afterward. If it's getting really intense, really uncomfortable for them, or it's causing them to start to tense up and squeeze, then we need to let it go, and it's time to come out of that stretch. So I'm going to have Andy bring his head back to center, and once again, we're going to curl up and forward. So we're going to inhale chin to chest, we're going to draw up and forward. And this time, I'm going to have him dive forward over his legs, as if he had an imaginary beach ball in his lap, and he's just going to dive forward like he's diving into the swimming pool. That's it. His arms are just going to end up where they end up. They're just going to hang. So this can also be a nice releasing position for your client, because you can tell them they're welcome to like shake their head, yes and no. They can wiggle their jaw, they can stick out their tongue, nobody can see their face here, and they can start to let go of any extra tension that they've been holding on to in their facial muscles. Okay. So with a tight tummy, I'm going to have Andy start to roll back up like he's coming up again against that imaginary brick wall and stack up as tall as he can. So Andy could repeat all of those things with an underhanded grip. And I'm going to have you go ahead, Andy, and just bring your palms facing up. We're not going to go through that because I'm sure you can imagine what that would be like. But just coming down, releasing the arms, turning the head, you can open and release a lot of tension through the neck, through the chest, down the arms. Okay, and that can be really helpful. So now that we know that Andy is comfortable with hands-on touch here, I'm going to go ahead and get in here and show you a few tricks. So right here, I think you can see, even though he's doing the best he can do and he's doing a good job, there's still some rounding here. We really don't want this, okay? We want as perfect a posture as we can possibly get. So I'm going to come in and take the bony part of my hip, and I'm going to push him where I want him, okay? So if Andy were a 90-year-old osteoporotic man, I would not be pushing my hip into his thoracic spine. That would be really dangerous. But I know that he's a healthy individual. You need to know your client and know what is right for them, and he can tolerate this. This is okay. As we have this underhanded grip, and everything I show you with the hands-on work can be done with both hand grips, but the underhanded grip starts to encourage some external rotation at the shoulders and opening of the chest. And particularly if we've been uncomfortable and we've been hunched and rounded, those pec muscles, they can get really tight, so this can be helpful. So while I've got my hip jutting into Andy's spine, lifting him up and out, it's a great place to start to do a little bit of massage work for your client, which can feel really good for them. So it can feel nice for them, it can help them to relax, but it can be therapeutic. It's also helpful for me because I can start to feel what the tissue feels like. Like right here, I can feel on Andy, he's got some trigger points going on the right side. This is not a shock to me because he's right-handed, number one, and he works on the computer all day. So this is his mouse hand, and I imagine that's probably a little bit tender right there, is it?
Yes, a little bit.
A little bit. So often when you've got somebody with headaches, you're gonna get in there, you're gonna find muscle spasm, trigger points, muscle guarding, all that good stuff. So you can do a little bit of pressure point and massage work there to therapeutically start to release it. But again, sometimes just having that, just massage, just a little bit of touch therapy there can just help your client to relax and release, or just bringing some awareness where they are holding tightness so that they can take a deep breath and let it go. They can breathe into that area and be like, wow, I did not know I was holding so much tension there. I didn't know that was so tight and painful. So it's a good place to start some massage. From here, I'm gonna have Andy start to roll down to the mat. So we're gonna inhale and hollow out through the belly. I'm gonna cue him to draw those shoulders down, and then I'm gonna let him settle down into the mat at his pace. He's gonna move at a comfortable place where he can control it and he's not plopping down into the mat. And he can take as many breaths as he needs to. I'm gonna adjust his head so that his chin is drawing down and in. Again, we wanna encourage that length, okay? So I'm gonna let Andy know that anything I do that aggravates or is uncomfortable, please speak up, okay? And then we can modify or leave it out. I'm gonna come onto Andy's shoulders and start to open up his chest a little bit more here. I'm gonna be pressing on the top of the humeral bone. So I am not right on the shoulder joint, and hopefully this feels okay and feels nice, yeah? So you can do this nice and gently. I have, I don't know if it's on the camera here, off the edge here is a little bit of a sticky platform. So if I want to get a little bit deeper, I am going to go ahead and do a plank myself, right up and over, and put more pressure through. As I do this, I'm watching my body mechanics as well. My elbows are soft, my chin's drawn in, my tummy's tight, my legs are straight. And I can get a little bit more pressure that way. As I come down, we're going to have Andy roll up and forward. He's going to inhale chin to chest. And let's dive forward again. So arms will be straight here. Here, come back down for a second, honey. So if his elbows were bent here, and that was a sign that maybe he needed assistance, I'm gonna come and press the bar for him, and I'm gonna assist him up this way. And then he's gonna dive forward head first. Arms are gonna hang. This is another great position to do a little bit of massage and release. So I'm gonna start at the base of his spine. I'm right along the sides of his spine. I'm not on the bones. And I'm just gonna go ahead and work my way up. This is another time for me to evaluate if he's got any rotation going through the spine, if there's a lot of guarding or spasming happening in those paraspinal muscles. We're gonna come up. I can spend a little bit more time on that. Again, so right there I can feel that tightness. Right here, I can start to release. Andy is either gonna wanna be my model every time or never again after this. Okay, so when I watched him roll up on the last one that he did independently, he did not start at the base of his spine, and I really want him to, so I'm gonna give him a tactile cue. So as he starts to roll up, I want him to start down here by my hand, and then he's gonna start to stack himself back up nice and tall. So he's gonna start to roll up, yeah. So he's doing it now. He's articulating in the way that I want him to. All the way up, okay. So right in between the shoulder blades, you can take your hands and give a little bit of pressure. And sometimes I might say something to my client like, without pushing me over, gently press back into my hands. Or see if you can, yes, melt that area forward. Sometimes that cue works as well. So we just got a whole lot straighter. We're also gonna soften here, relax and release. Good. We're gonna come back down, rolling back with a full breath. Inhale to tuck, hollow out the belly. Find your way back down to the mat. Let the arms be long. And then release them completely. So let them go. Chin draws down and in. So after we've done some chest opening, we can also work on depressing the shoulders. So I don't want to depress the shoulder and curve him in. That's gonna undo what we just did. So I'm gonna kind of open him and then press down. And ideally right here, he could probably benefit from having a small cushion underneath his head. Okay. So again, you could have him roll up and work on some more massage. We're gonna go right into the next stretch. So I'm going to have Andy turn his head to one direction. Good. And then I'm going to give him a chance to adjust if he needs to. And then again, when we start working on the neck, we want to be careful and we want to be respectful of all of the important structures in the neck. So I'm going to take my hand to the top of his shoulder and then my other hand on the back of his skull. Okay? So my hand on the skull is not pushing on his neck, it's more just to stabilize his head. And I'm going to start to press his shoulder down and open. And hopefully he's getting a little bit deeper stretch, but something that's still comfortable. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So comfortable.
And so, even though we've got Andy's legs relaxed, he can still be working his belly by drawing his tummy down and in. We still want to get that core work. And he's just supposed to breathe. He just needs to breathe and relax. Now, as he switches to turn his head the other way, I'm going to go ahead and switch my hands. So go ahead and bring your head back to center. We're going to come up and around. And then I do want his chin drawn down and in a bit more. Good. So again, my hand's going to come to the top so I can press down and open, and I'm going to stabilize right here on his head. And we just have him hold and breathe several long deep breaths. Then we'll have him release and come back to center. And then I'm going to have him roll up so he can have a little bit of a break for his arms. So he's going to inhale, chin to chest, arms stay straight. So I will guide him and assist if he needs it. And then he's going to stack up so that the weight's even on the sit bones. We're going to draw that chin in slightly. Yeah, right there. So good. So good. Now, I can test him and say, honey, can you hold this as I back away? And now he's engaging his core and he's starting to work on better alignment. Right there. Nice. Okay. And then I'm going to have Andy come back down to the table when he's ready. Inhaling to begin scooping and rounding back. Arms stay long, shoulders are dropping down from his ears, chest is opening, tummy stays engaged, and as he comes down, he's going to settle in, and he's going to relax, and he's going to give his arms over to the bar. Good. So, some of the areas that get tense when we have headaches, whether they're causing the headache, or it's from the headache, or just feeding off of each other, are our little bitty suboccipital muscles. They come right underneath this big bony part in your skull, your occiput. Down the neck, we can get our scalenes and then our upper traps. So we have already done a few things to start to release through some of that area, but we're going to come in a little bit deeper. And this is almost a little bit of craniosacral work, if you're familiar with that. You want to have short fingernails, okay, as you do this. I'm going to come underneath his head, and he doesn't have to do anything. His job is just to trust me that I'm going to hold his head. And if he doesn't trust me, if your client's not totally relaxed and comfortable, they can trust knowing that they're like an inch off of the mat, okay? So it's not that you're really going to be dropping them or hurting them. I'm going to bring my fingers right underneath into his suboccipital muscles, right underneath the occiput. And then as I do that, his job is to let his head be really heavy into my fingers, the pads of my fingers, and I'm going to give a little bit of a distraction force, just a little bit. And that's going, as he sits there, we're just going to do it for a few seconds. So I'm going to come up and underneath, and then I do want his chin kind of drawing down and in a little bit, right there. And then I'm going to come in, and then I'm just going to stick my fingers there, okay? I'm going to support his head, and then his job is to let his head be as heavy as possible. And as you sit here for a minute or two, ideally you start to open up those muscles. They kind of sink down and in, and you can feel that tissue releasing. It's kind of a cool thing. So that usually feels pretty good. Does that feel good?
It feels really good.
Really good. Okay. So it usually feels pretty good for people that have tightness there, have pain, have headaches. So if we were having a real session and he was a client of mine, I might spend a little bit more time there. But I'm going to go ahead and show you the next thing I like to do from here. I'm going to keep supporting his head in one hand, and I'm going to turn it. And again, he's right here on the table. So usually the client is pretty comfortable with kind of giving you the weight of their head. That's important. And then this is another fantastic place for me to work on some more massage. So I can come in with my thumb or my knuckles. You do have some important circulatory structures through here and nerves, and you do want to be careful as you're pressing. So again, please always stay within your training and what's appropriate for you as a practitioner. But, oh my goodness, like right here. That must be tender, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, now, I already knew from my previous information that he's tighter on the right side than the left. So ideally, I would have started on the left. I like to start on the side that's not going to be as uncomfortable. It allows you to kind of assess and compare, and it allows them to get more comfortable with the work you're doing. However, this is the side you guys can see on the video. So I'm going to start in here. Now, depending on their comfort level, usually men and women are okay with me coming down a little bit towards the collarbone. You can also come into the upper traps here, which there's usually some nice points in there. So you can work there, you can hold through trigger points. Sometimes we get in with some knuckle action. So it's just a great place to work here on the neck. And come all the way up into the skull. However, again, just, you know, you don't want to be too assertive or too aggressive, okay? And a lot of times when there's tightness here, it's pretty tender. Like, you don't have to push very hard. Like, I'm hardly pushing. I can imagine you can probably feel it, because that's a good trigger point right there. So we'd have them relax. If you've spent a long time there, you probably can't see this on the camera, but he already has a lot of redness here. So we're getting some good blood flow and circulation to the area. That's a good thing. So you've been here a while. I usually let them come up and come back down, and then we would rotate and we'd come down and do the other side. Okay, so it's a nice place. Do you want me to do the other side? I'll do it for a second. He's gonna be like, I'm lopsided. So he does have some tightness already on the side. I can feel it. And sometimes you'll find, like right there, like his tightness is in maybe a little bit different location than on the right side. That's totally normal. Yeah, so another thing, when I'm working on a client, I often don't look, a lot of times I don't look at what I'm working on. I want to feel it more, so it just kind of helps you, you know, to use your intuition and your training to feel the tissue, and that can help you help your client better. Okay, so we're going to relax, we're going to release. I'm going to have him roll up and take a little break from this. We're going to inhale, chin to chest, curl up and forward, shoulders are down, arms are long, and then I want him to stack up as tall as he can. We're going to do, I think, just one more thing. Okay, so this is definitely more of a physical therapy tactic, but I just want to reiterate, if you want to change your hands, you're welcome to. So sometimes changing the hands or giving the wrist a break, all of this can be done with either hand grip. This is just a gym towel. I usually keep a couple of clean towels in the studio, and I have it rolled up, and I'm going to do a little bit of manual cervical traction. And I have not done this with Andy before. This will be new for him. So when I have somebody that this is new, we definitely want to start nice and gentle and start small and kind of check in with them to see not only how it feels, but how they respond. How do they feel the next day or a couple days later? And then most people, this feels really, really nice. It's very helpful for them. So, you know, then you can start to go a little bit more aggressively. So when he comes down, I'm going to try to catch the back of his skull on the folded edge of my towel. So we're going to come right up underneath that big bony part, the occiput. And then I want to make sure his chin is down and in, and I'm going to pull up and out at a slight angle. So again, I'm going to be gentle with him, and this is something I've been trained to do. You don't want to go start yanking on people's necks. That is definitely not the intention of this. But if you're a therapist, you're comfortable, you're trained in manual therapy and different techniques, then perhaps this is something you can work into your practice. So with all that talk, Andy does the exact same thing. He's got the easy job. All he has to do is roll down. He's going to tighten the tummy and start to roll back. And then as he comes down, I'm going to do my best to kind of catch so I don't have to have him relift his head. And I'll adjust it as I need to. Okay, so arms relaxed, bar pulling the arms. We're going to draw the chin down and in. And then I'm just on that folded edge. So I'm going to come up and underneath the occiput and underneath his ears. And I'm going to pull a little bit up and back. And what I'm going to do here is just create this nice, lovely, and so his chin is really popping up. And it's okay if that happens a little bit, but I prefer for it to be down. So that's better. But now try to let your head be heavy and let go. And then of course he's going to speak up if this is too much or it's uncomfortable. And I like to hold this for about 10 seconds. I don't time it, just an approximation. And then I release and relax. I would readjust his head and do it another time or two, okay? And then what I usually do is do a couple of these. They can have their eyes closed. They can just let the bar pull them. They can just relax here. And then I would have them come up, release out of it. Actually, let's do that. Go ahead and inhale, chin to chest. We're gonna come up and over the legs this time. So like you're diving forward. We're gonna keep the shoulders down. Good, 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 good. That's it. And then this would be a nice place to do some massage and release here, and then stacking up with a full breath. Good. Chin drawn in. Good, so that we're lifting from the back crown of the head. Shoulders relaxed. Oh, there we go. So with this area, and I talked about this earlier in the video, I would definitely have Andy after this do some work on the foam roller. That will really help him to lengthen through here, and that would feel really good for him. Okay, I'm gonna have Andy come down one more time. So another technique with this manual cervical traction is to do little oscillations. And then this is a technique used in joint mobilizations where you do small little oscillations. It's done for pain relief. And again, my clients that have any type of tension or pain through the upper body, neck pain, headaches, all that good stuff, this usually feels really, really good for them. So I'm gonna have you sink your chin down and in a little bit. Good. And then from there, I'm gonna pull up and back, and now I'm going to pulse, and 2, and 3. Feels okay? 4, turn it to 9, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Release out. I would do 2 to 3 sets of that. And we're gonna come up one last time, and that's all we're gonna do. Okay, we're gonna come up and relax. Actually, I lied. We're gonna do one more thing. Come back down. So this isn't a manual technique. This is something really, really simple. Another technique you can do if you're trying to do hands-off work. So with Andy's chin drawn down and in, and his arms straight, I'm gonna have him inhale and shrug his shoulders up to his ears, like an I don't know. And then he's gonna exhale and just let it go. Yep. Inhale, shrug them up. Exhale, release. And one more time. So that little maneuver is a great little tool to do at the beginning of the session or in between some of these exercises that might be a little bit more intense. It is a nice kind of like hitting the reset button, and it's also a good way if your client's having a hard time letting go and really trusting the bar or letting the bar pull their arms. It's a nice way to kind of let them, it like almost forces them to let go, where they then can feel what letting go feels like and they know where they need to be. Shoot, I was gonna say one more thing and I forgot. Well, if I think of it, I'll put it in the little notes in the box underneath. Dang it. This is why you should write out the notes. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up here. We're gonna roll up and forward, inhale, chin to chest, and we'll come up bone by bone and stack nice and tall. And relax, and how do you feel?
Feel pretty good.
Feel pretty good. Okay, so I will link those other exercises that I talked about, the side rolling using the same bar. Again, any work on the foam roller, whether it's on the table, on the reformer, or just laying on the mat. I do have, I think, an upper body sequence on the foam roller. I'll link that too. That's awesome. A lot of people do have a foam roller at home, or you can do it on maybe like a rolled up beach towel or something like that, and that can be a tool that they use at home. And anything you want to add?
Nope, that's it.
And that's it. Thanks for joining us. If you found value in this video, if you'd like to see some other kind of videos more geared towards instructors and clinicians, then please like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, bye. Ready?
Sure.
Let's talk about headaches, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about headaches. Let's talk about headaches. Yeah. Oh, okay.